Alright, so what we need to do is just figure out how to make this much better quality. Now, as you increase the quality, you're going to increase the rendering time. So I'm just going to show you basically what we need to do to increase the quality. And so the first thing, let's take a look at the lighting. So we can select the Sky Dome, and let's go to the settings here where you have samples 1. So normally, like for really good quality, you can set it to say 5, and so that increases the quality of the Sky Dome illumination. And so let's just wait for this to render. Now what's going to happen is that the render times are going to be slower and slower as we increase the quality of the render. And so the best thing to do to mitigate that is just to use a render region. So instead of rendering the whole frame, you can just render a region. So just wait for this bit to finish actually. So boom, 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 nearly done. And already you can see that like if you take a look at the blue background, it looks a bit smoother already compared to before. Can you see all the grain there? And so already we've lost quite a bit of the grain. It's a bit smoother. So let's grab this little blue square here, and let's say we can do this area here. So we can focus on this area. All right, so we're happy with the light. Well, the Sky Dome light. I said it finally. And so samples 5, and so let's just click on this little outliner here and go to the backlight, and it's a samples 1. So again, 5, and then also the front light, 5 samples. There we go. So we've increased the quality of the light sampling, and so that's that bit done. And so the next thing is, let's select the body here, is we need to go into the subsurface, click on this, and so we are now in the ambient occlusion. Now if you take a look, by default it sets the samples at 3, which is pretty low. So you would want something like 6 or 7. So if we go for 7, we're going to increase the quality of the ambient occlusion. And so we've got ambient occlusion on the body, and we have ambient occlusion on the teeth. So select the big tooth, and let's find the ambient occlusion nodes. There's 3, so let's pump that up to 7. And then the small tooth, that's already on 7 because it's sharing the same ambient occlusion. And then we've got the right eye, ambient occlusion 7, left eye, ambient occlusion 7, and also the background, ambient occlusion 7. Okay, look, so quality is increasing, and the next thing we want to do is increase the quality of the render settings. So if we click on the render options and go to Arnold Render, we've got the camera, the AA, that's the anti-aliasing sampling is only on 2. It's pretty low, so let's do 5, and you're going to get much better quality as we can increase the diffuse, the specular, transmission. We don't really have any transmission. Transmission is like for glassy surfaces, and then this SSS is the subsurface scattering. Volume indirect. We don't really have any volume indirect. That's if you want to do stuff like fog, and fog, stuff like that. And so as you can see, if you take a look at the bottom here, it still says 0 because now we've like bumped up the quality by a lot, and now it's only on 2. So it's a bit of a wait for it to go all the way. And so what I'm going to do is actually stop the render and just show you the final settings. So basically what you want is this to be 6, diffuse 4, specular 4. We don't need transmission, and again subsurface 5, and you want to go to ray depth and bump up the diffuse. 2 should do it, specular should do it, and transmission 8, it's quite a lot. We don't have any transmission, but you can just leave that alone. And basically 644 should do it. Basically, and SS on 5, mate, you can probably bump up the diffuse and the specular 5 as well. Yeah, that's fine. And then come in here and make sure you've labeled your file, so it's CubeMonster1, image format EXR, that's good quality, and compression none, camera 1, and we want to change this. Now remember, 800 by 800 was just so we could do the render tests, but I actually want it at 2K. Boom. So 2K is going to be like really nice and gorgeous quality, and so in that case I'm just going to like bump it up to 7 just to make sure. Right, there we go. So these are my settings, and I'm going to close it, Control S, save your scene. And so this is what we want to render here. Now the last thing we can do before that is just to clean all this up. We've got these empty groups and nodes that we don't want, so we can actually delete them. There we go. And all we need is this, the monster group, really. We've got this. I don't know what this P sphere 4 is. Let's just check it, and it's probably this. We can delete that, so we don't need that. And so basically I'm just cleaning up the scene. Projected curves we don't need, so delete the layer. And so basically I'm just cleaning up the outliner here. So you got the camera 1, the image plane 2, which is the image plane of this guy. We don't really need the image plane anymore, but it's alright, let's just leave it. We've switched it off anyway, and that's the background and the character, and then we have the lights. Okay, that's fine. If you want to, you can select the lights and then click on this and put them on a layer, and so just say lights. Layer, maybe give it a color square so we know it's not geometry. Save, and then click on R, and R means you can't accidentally select it. You see, the lights means reference, and so they're safe on that layer. And we've got the monster and the background, and we can put it on another layer as well, and this is the geometry layer, so geometry layer, save it, and do R reference as well. So that means we can't accidentally select anything in the scene. So we're all set up, the outliner is clean, and we are ready to go. And I just want to double check one last thing and make sure everything is high res. So I've selected the whole group, hit 3 just to make sure it's high res, and the background, so everything is high res. It is. There we go. So now everything's on reference, so we can't accidentally select anything, which is cool. Only the image plane. Where is the image plane anyway? Why have I accidentally selected it? And that's because here, these image planes there. So we'll just ignore them. Right, okay, so this is what we have. Let's switch off the image plane just to make sure so we don't select it by accident. Right, okay, so what do we need to do now? And so just one last double check. I always do this because I get a bit paranoid. And camera 1. Right, we're rendering in camera 1, which is this view here, and so basically you need to go back to rendering, render. Now you don't need to do batch render because we're only rendering 1 frame, so you can render the sequence, open it, and make sure that says camera 1. So if it says something else like perspective, change it, camera 1, close it, and then you just hit render. Now this is going to take quite a while to render because it's the final high quality render, so I'm going to hit render. There we go, and just allow it to render. It could take a while, an hour, 2 hours, something like that. So I'm going to pause the video. Once it's done, I'm going to get back to you, and so I will see you then. Okay, so it has finished rendering, and it took quite a while actually, quite a few hours, and the reason for that is because it's 2K, and the settings were very high, perhaps a bit too high, but always get worried that the settings aren't high enough because you don't want to wait hours for a render. Then once it's done, you realise that the image is still grainy and stuff, and then you have to do it all over again. So I'd rather just overcompensate than under, if you see what I mean. So anyway, there you go. This is the finished piece. If you want to, do anything else to it, you can always take it into Photoshop and whatnot, and just play around with it. But there you go. So this is creating a character entirely in Maya. We modelled it, did the UV mapping, textured it, and rendered it all inside of Maya. Okay, so that's that done. This project is now finished, and thank you very much for watching.